Hi there, thanks for checking in. I wanted to share with you a little bit about Netsupport's range of solutions for the education space, focused specifically on classroom instructional technology, both locally within the classroom and more recently in delivering an effective and usable blended learning solution. For the last 30 years, Netsupport have been at the heart of the education space, specialising in the development of key classroom instructional technology. It started, of course, back in the days of DOS only and has evolved from there. And what's probably most important about the Netsupport solutions we offer is that they've been co-produced, working with educators around the world to the point now where over 18 million users are supported on their daily learning journey by technology provided from Netsupport. Now, within our portfolio of education solutions, the two products I want to talk to you about today are 넷서포트스쿨, our desktop classroom instructional technology to use across all platforms, Windows, Mac, Android, iOS and Chrome. And alongside that, our new solution, Classroom.cloud, which is designed to provide easy and flexible classroom instruction, whether within the classroom or more prevalent with the current climate, the flexibility to support learners no matter where they are. So that's the kind of headline. Let's dig a little bit deeper. First and foremost, let's talk about Classroom Cloud, our new online blended learning solution. Now, one of the things that I think is really key is to understand that what we've seen with recent pressures from educators is not a race for who has the most functionality, but actually products that are easy to use, easy to install and maintain, and have the level of accessibility that allows us to counteract some of the challenges and pressures within the school environment, not least teachers' confidence in using technology and getting up to speed quickly. And from that we can think right back to the early research of Mandinack and Klein, often sort of presented in a very visual sense by some of the artwork from people like Sylvia Duckworth, that really shows that curve where teachers move in their levels of confidence from survival mode all the way through to innovation and development. And with that in mind, Netsupport solutions working with educators have been fine-tuned to make sure that they're really simple and easy to use. And Classroom.cloud is a perfect example of that. So it starts with a solution that's cloud-based, no surprise there, that allows you quickly and easily to connect to all of your students' devices. Once they're connected, your central Classroom Cloud system as a teacher will automatically pull in your class lists, whether it's through Google Classroom or School Data Sync, so you can quickly and easily pick your lesson that's about to start now. When you connect, the first thing you see, something different perhaps to the platforms you'll have been using during recent COVID challenges, will be the fact that you can see all your students, their desktops, what they're currently doing on their Windows devices, their Chromebooks and so on. So as a teacher you actually have a sense of control. And control is key rather than other solutions that require both stakeholders to take part in joining and making a lesson effective. Within the Classroom Cloud framework, focusing on that key about simplicity, a teacher can see all the student thumbnails. If we want to pause and gain attention to front of class, be it in the physical sense in school or again remotely, the teacher can blank student screens and draw their attention whilst they're presenting and sharing information. Under the umbrella of presenting, the teacher can share their screen and where appropriate their audio so that they can present in a traditional way to all of their students. To make sure the lesson progresses and flows, particularly when we think about the lack of shepherding that might occur when we're doing our online blended learning, Classroom Cloud also provides the flexibility to remotely launch applications and websites, losing those valuable pauses in a lesson where we're waiting to see if students are on task and on point with their content and curriculum. As well as being able to remotely launch those apps and websites on each student device, we can also control which of those apps and websites are accessible for the student for the duration of the lesson. Again, keeping students focused on task and at the same time, another key factor, keeping them safe, shepherding them to just the online resources that are relevant and appropriate to your lesson. Now, of course, teaching and instruction and sharing information is all well and good, but we also want to make sure it's quick and easy for a teacher to capture a sense of a student's progress and understanding. So again, built in within Classroom.cloud is the ability to do quick surveys as part of your end of class plenary, where we can quickly capture feedback from our students and we can group them automatically based on their results. Now we know one of the key factors in development, particularly again when we think of the remote learning, blended learning model, is about that collaboration and interaction between students and teacher. So alongside the normal presentation and shepherding tools, Classroom Cloud provides a simple and easy way to create quick chats between one or groups of students so that they can collaborate and share ideas. Pull it all together within the Classroom Cloud arena and we provide a simple and effective tool that can be deployed and implemented in minutes, has a really accessible format that allows teachers to use it with confidence, and at the same time provides schools with the perfect flexibility of a lightweight, low cost, easy classroom management and instruction tool that can be used wherever, whenever, and that flexibility is key. So we have the Classroom Cloud solution, which I really hope you will go away and try. You can find more at classroom.cloud. But in terms of NetSupport's journey in the education environment, as I alluded to, we started 30 years ago. And at the start of our journey was 넷서포트스쿨, that core technology within an ICT lab or suite that allowed a teacher to have a degree of control and oversight of a student's activity whilst using their technology. 넷서포트스쿨, of course, has evolved to a far more complete and comprehensive solution since then. And I'm going to give you a quick oversight of some of that core functionality. So of course we're starting with the heart about classroom instruction and management, whether we call it instructional technology or whatever. So it starts with a teacher being able to connect to any number of devices or students simply and easily. And that can be done in a number of ways, whether it's predefined lists of device identifiers, predefined lists of students based on their logon IDs or more. Once we have our students connected, as you'd expect in instructional technology, we can see their screens. We can blank their screens, we can lock their screens. We can take a student screen and share it to the rest of the class as a way of highlighting an exemplar or a piece of work that's been undertaken. And as you'd expect, the teacher can show their screen or a selected application to the rest of the class as part of their instruction. Now, running through the 넷서포트스쿨 functionality, which I'm going to just share with you at a high level, we have a student journal, which allows us to capture snapshots of all the different activities we undertake within the lesson. A student can take that away for their homeworking or revision, and of course provides a fantastic resource for any students that weren't present in class. So what are the things we might want to include in there? Well, as part of that learning journal, a teacher can share snapshots, screenshots of their screen or resources that they're sharing with the class. If a teacher wants the children to access a particular application, of course they can launch that application remotely on the devices, as you'd expect. And as we have with our other educational products, they can also control that application use. The same applies for websites, and if there are perhaps 4 or 5 websites that are appropriate for the topic being taught in class, they can either be launched on student machines or they can be the restricted list available to the children for the duration. That same list will automatically then appear in the student's journal as a takeaway and a reference point for future learning. Alongside those control, we also have the ability to control when children print, whether they can access or not their USB drives and more. But let's think about a lesson journey. We might start with that presenting our screen and sharing key information to our students. Of course, at the same time, we want to monitor their activity and behaviour, but we might also want to share some resources with our students. So built in within 넷서포트스쿨 is the ability to either transfer a file to one or multiple students in a single action, or more completely, use our send and collect work feature, which allows you to take a resource, send it to all the students, they can work on it, and when it's complete, it's automatically brought back to a single folder on the teacher's machine. A really easy way of making sure there's no break and flow in the way the lesson runs. Now, as well as sharing my screen, I might want to share, again, built in within 넷서포트스쿨, my virtual whiteboard, where not only can I show resources and annotate on top, but I can also, in effect, pass the chalk to other students and allow them to join the whiteboard and add their own annotations and layers on top. Again, with all being able to see that activity. Now, at any point, a child at this point might have questions or might be struggling. And again, built in within 넷서포트스쿨 is the ability for a child to request help. Now, unlike some products that require a degree of deafness with a hotkey combination, 넷서포트스쿨 uniquely provides a student toolbar that is overlaid at the top of the screen. That toolbar changes colour when a child requests help, as well as notifying the teacher console. It does that because actually from a feedback from our teachers within the learning environments, often the teachers on the move, walking around the classroom, engaging with students, and so they can visibly see that request help. It also allows our students to seek support where perhaps they're not confident enough to raise a hand within the classroom. So we've talked a lot about our teaching styles, viewing screens, monitoring children's activity, sharing resources. But of course, children learn in different ways, and if we move to departments teaching our foreign languages, we also need to be conscious of being able to listen to what our children are saying and hearing, as well as seeing what they're doing. So again, built in within 넷서포트스쿨 is our language lab feature. We refer to it as our audio mode. It allows a teacher to see those same thumbnails of all the children in the class, but by selecting each individual one, they can choose to listen not only to what the child is hearing if they're being taught a particular language, but also capture and hear the child's response. Now, of course, if I hear a child demonstrating a fantastic piece of pronunciation, by the time I've heard it, it's a bit too late to hit record. So 넷서포트스쿨 also cleverly works on a 60-second buffer that allows us to hear a great bit of phrase pronunciation and hit record, and in effect jump back in time and capture that as an exemplar, which again we can then save or share with the rest of the class. The key really here within that functionality is recognising that across the school, different subjects require different flexibility and skill sets within the product, and that's where the language lab features add an extra layer of value within 넷서포트스쿨. So our students have been presented to by the teacher who's shared the topic and the resources they need to be aware of. The teacher's handed out some files for the students to actually work on, ready to be sent back at the end of lesson. The teacher's monitoring what the children are doing within that learning journey. And at the same time, we're also providing the children with an easy method for seeking interaction or help. So what comes next? Well, the next layer beyond that, of course, is are they learning? How are they learning? And within 넷서포트스쿨, we provide a range of assessment tools. It starts with simple things like quick surveys that can be done either on the fly or pre-prepared, where children can respond quickly directly from their device, and the teacher will be able to see who answered correctly and wrongly, but more importantly, automatically group students by their responses so the teacher can revisit the particular topic with those that struggled on the answer. The next approach, thinking about the evolution of technology within the classroom, but also adapting to children's learning styles, is that 넷서포트스쿨 also has a component that gamifies the approach of assessment. We call it our Q&A mode. So it starts with something simple, like the teacher hitting the random select mode. And now, automatically, all the children's screens will flash in the class, and one or a number will automatically be selected by the system. It does two things. It prevents the conversation of, oh, sir or miss, you're always picking on me, but it also ensures attention from all the students because they could always be the next one that gets asked the question. Now, as well as our ability to randomly select, we can also build questions around that. We can also build it in a teamwork sense. And if we think from a pedagogy point of view, it allows a teacher to pose a question, pause, pounce, select a student, and then bounce to the next student. So a typical example within a 넷서포트스쿨 Q&A mode will be asking the question, which is the largest planet in the solar system? It automatically selects Billy. Billy responds and the teacher can bounce it to the next child and say, was Billy correct, yes or no? And again, building on that idea about benefiting from peer relationships, 넷서포트스쿨's Q&A mode also includes a peer assess, where the teacher at any point can say, okay, class, all of you, tell me, was Billy right? And again, continue to capture that feedback, which feeds into our digital journals as a takeaway. In addition to that structured feedback approach, there's also a testing module built into 넷서포트스쿨 for much more complicated tests that can be pre-prepared. Drag and drop, label, text answers, and more. So again, whatever the method you require to capture and have sufficient evidence that your children are progressing during the class, 넷서포트스쿨 provides that functionality for you across all your devices. Lots of those assessment tools I've shared with you there are about capturing students' learning. But now more than ever, we also want to make sure we have a good and effective way of capturing a child's well-being. So in addition, within 넷서포트스쿨 now, we also have our new feedback mode, allowing a teacher quickly and easily to capture feedback from children, whether it might be a sliding scale of thumbs up and thumbs down as to how they're feeling today, what their mood is, whether they're happy, sad, or allow them quickly and visually on a rating scale, whether it's 1 to 5 or 5 stars and so on, to provide quick feedback to simple questions asked by the teacher. And if we think back to that start of lesson, before we dive into the academic and curriculum functions, it's a really useful feature just to capture a sense of how our children are doing, and particularly identifying any children that might need a little bit more support during the coming lesson. Now, we all know when we rely on technology in the classroom, the first thing we rely on is that it's easy to use and that it's operational and functional at all times. So going back to my earlier comments about teacher confidence and that learning journey from survival mode upwards, when you start the 넷서포트스쿨 tutor, you're presented with three options. You can sign in basic mode, where just that key functionality, as I like to refer to, the lock, stop and block functionality is available to you. Or you can go in intermediate mode, or in advanced mode, you're unlocked with a wealth of features that allow you to do all sorts of different aspects with your local classroom, or of course over your wider area network. Now, pulling all those classes together and remembering there may be lots of teachers within your school using 넷서포트스쿨 in parallel at different times, it also includes a technicians module. And the technicians module allows the techie across the school, LAN or WAN, to monitor multiple classes and provide remote assistance and support whenever needed. Again, it avoids the need to send a child out of class for assistance, and the techie can quickly see if a machine has a problem that needs intervention or support, even down to checking to make sure that a USB device hasn't been left in a device at the end of day. So we wrap those two together. But we also know within a classroom, it's not just a teacher. We often have a teaching assistant who's there to support individual learners. And so with that in mind, there's also a teaching assistant app available that from an iPad, for example, a TA can monitor an individual child and provide digital support to them as well. Of course, we talk about multi-platform, and multi-platform's key for 넷서포트스쿨. So if you are a teacher and you're on the move around the classroom and that's your preferred teaching approach, you can also have a 넷서포트스쿨 tutor running on an Android tablet, for example, or on a Mac. And again, the flexibility is built in to allow that interconnectivity no matter what the mix of platforms are within your classroom. Certainly helpful if your school's one of those that has more of a BYOD approach to your teaching and learning. So of course we're hoping that all of our learners will be within the classroom for much of the year ahead. But given the challenges, even when they are, we recognise there will be pressures on schools, particularly with regard to social distancing. And within that regard, 넷서포트스쿨 also provides a really valuable tool to allow a teacher to interact with their students, see what they're doing, assess their progress without needing to physically be too close to each child within the room. That in itself provides an extra layer of benefit by deploying 넷서포트스쿨 across your school, district, trust or beyond. So there's a broad sense of functionality, and what 넷서포트 has identified with educators is first and foremost, no one size fits all. No two schools are alike. Different schools have different requirements. If you're looking for low cost, easy to use, super flexible classroom instruction no matter where your students are, then Classroom.Cloud is optimized. It has that benefit that if your teachers are familiar using the technology within the classroom, then if you reach a point where your students have to learn remotely, there's no new upskill of technology. The same tool can be used across any learning environment. If, however, you're looking for the real professional functionality, that great scope of teaching and learning, where beyond that monitoring and interaction, you also want the testing and the assessment and the broader controls, then 넷서포트스쿨 provides a perfect solution for your learning environment in the 21st century. I really hope you've enjoyed a quick overview of our two education solutions. Both are available to try, free for 30 days. So please head off to the links below and check them out.